Berlin, 1945. The city lies under a sky that is no longer dark but glowing with an unnatural light. A blinding flash illuminates the horizon, not from Allied bombardment, but from a single German laboratory. The world trembles as news spreads. The Nazis have succeeded where humanity had feared they might, achieving what seemed impossible: the atomic bomb. Imagine a Europe where the Reich does not collapse in 1945, but instead rises, bolstered by a weapon capable of erasing cities in seconds. Imagine a world where the Allies are paralyzed by fear, where the balance of power is not just shifted but shattered, and where one decision, one breakthrough, has the potential to rewrite history entirely. This is not just a question of military might. It is a question of human destiny. What would the world look like if Nazi Germany had developed the atomic bomb first? How would global politics, culture, and daily life have transformed under the shadow of ultimate power? Stay with this story to the end, because the answers are as chilling as they are fascinating. In our timeline, Germany's nuclear program faltered due to a combination of miscalculations, divided focus, and wartime resource constraints. Scientists like Werner Heisenberg struggled with theoretical errors, and critical uranium supplies were diverted to other projects. The Allied efforts, by contrast, moved swiftly and decisively, ensuring that the first functional atomic bombs fell into their hands. In this alternate timeline, the divergence is subtle but decisive. Hitler prioritizes the nuclear project, seeing in it the ultimate weapon that will secure the Reich's dominance. The V2 rocket program slows, resources are redirected, and the Uranverein, the secret German nuclear club, gains unprecedented access to uranium, heavy water, and the finest mines the country can offer. Heisenberg corrects his earlier errors. The calculations that once stalled the project now produce a working chain reaction. By late 1943, Germany achieves a breakthrough that history would have considered impossible: a small functional atomic bomb. The consequences ripple immediately. The scientists who had once worried about theoretical purity now confront the terrifying reality of a weapon that could end millions of lives in an instant. The implications of this success are immediate. Germany no longer races against time. It races ahead of it. The Allies remain unaware of the true scale of this development, confident that their own atomic programs will give them the advantage. They do not yet understand that the world's balance of power has already shifted. By April 1944, Germany conducts its first atomic test deep within the Bavarian Alps. The explosion dwarfs any conventional bomb used in the war up to this point. Scientists and military leaders watch in stunned silence as the mushroom cloud rises into the sky. The blast wave shatters nearby mountains, leaving a crater that will endure for centuries. News of the tests spreads across Europe, and soon intelligence reaches the Allied High Command. Winston Churchill, upon receiving the reports, is struck speechless. Franklin D. Roosevelt is alarmed in private, knowing that the Germans now possess a weapon of unparalleled destructive power. Panic spreads quietly among Allied nations. The confidence of victory in Europe, once assumed, begins to crumble. Germany's propaganda machine seizes the opportunity. Posters, radio broadcasts, and speeches proclaim the dawn of a new era. The Reich is invincible, and the world must submit or be destroyed. Ordinary Germans are swept up in the sense of triumph and awe, unaware of the long-term consequences of wielding such unprecedented power. The first test is both a success and a warning. It demonstrates that the Nazis have achieved what few imagined possible. Yet it raises the haunting question: what will they do with this weapon? By mid-1944, Germany is prepared to use the bomb as a tool of coercion. Unlike the strategic restraint of later American deployments, Hitler sees the atomic bomb as both a military and psychological weapon. London, the heart of the Allied resistance, becomes the first target. A single bomb detonates over the city, vaporizing its center and instantly killing hundreds of thousands. St. Paul's Cathedral, Westminster, and entire neighborhoods disappear in an instant. The shock reverberates around the world. The United Kingdom, reeling from the devastation, is forced to negotiate under duress, effectively ending British participation in the war. Europe is transformed. France, already under occupation, sees the German hold tighten further. Neutral nations tremble under the threat of nuclear annihilation. The Allies are paralyzed, unsure how to respond. Even the United States, across the Atlantic, is compelled to rethink its strategy, recognizing that its conventional forces are obsolete in the face of atomic weapons. The bomb has achieved its first major victory for Germany. It is not merely a weapon of war. It is a tool of absolute power, capable of bending nations to Hitler's will without traditional combat. Yet, this success carries hidden costs. Fear spreads across the Reich itself, among both citizens and military leaders, and the moral weight of using such a device begins to strain even the most loyal supporters. By 1946, Germany has solidified control over much of Europe. The Soviet Union, wary of facing nuclear retaliation, signs a truce, ceding territory in Eastern Europe to the Reich. France, the Low Countries, and Scandinavia are effectively under German influence. The Axis powers appear unstoppable. Across the Atlantic, the United States recognizes the threat and accelerates its nuclear program. Einstein, Oppenheimer, and Fermi work in unprecedented secrecy and urgency to catch up. By the late 1940s, America successfully develops its own atomic bombs, but the geopolitical landscape has already changed. The world is no longer divided between democracy and fascism alone. It is divided by nuclear supremacy. Germany uses its nuclear monopoly as leverage, reshaping the global map. Japan remains under Axis influence, while South America and parts of Africa navigate a delicate neutrality, fearful of antagonizing the Reich. The Cold War emerges decades earlier, and in a far more terrifying form, as both superpowers understand that even a single strike could trigger global annihilation. The psychological effects are immense. Civilians across Europe live under the constant shadow of nuclear terror. Cities are evacuated preemptively. International diplomacy becomes a series of high-stakes negotiations, punctuated by threats of catastrophic retaliation. The atomic bomb is no longer a single weapon. It has become the defining force of global politics. By the early 1950s, cracks begin to appear within Germany itself. The atomic bomb, once a symbol of power, becomes a source of fear. Radiation contamination near test sites spreads sickness among local populations. Scientists who question safety measures mysteriously disappear. Generals and political leaders vie for control of the nuclear arsenal, introducing instability into a regime that once appeared unshakable. Underground resistance movements emerge across the Reich. Ordinary Germans, horrified by the moral consequences of their nation's dominance, begin to act. Evidence of radioactive devastation is smuggled to Allied nations. Forests glow with lethal radiation at night. Entire villages are abandoned. Economic strain intensifies. Resources are diverted toward maintaining and expanding the bomb program, while the civilian population faces food shortages and rationing. Even Hitler's inner circle becomes divided, torn between ambition and fear. The thousand-year Reich begins to rot from within, not because of foreign armies, but because of the uncontrollable consequences of its own creations. By 1955, Hitler dies, leaving behind a fractured empire. Rival factions, each controlling segments of the nuclear arsenal, threaten mutual destruction. What had begun as a tool to dominate the world now endangers the very nation that created it. Germany's internal chaos mirrors the terror it had imposed on the rest of the world, proving that absolute power carries absolute risk. The world, after the collapse of the Reich, is unrecognizable. Europe is littered with ghost cities, some completely uninhabitable due to radioactive contamination. Millions of displaced civilians wander through lands that once thrived, now turned into wastelands by the relentless use of nuclear weapons. Borders are redrawn not by treaties or armies, but by the zones of uninhabitable terrain left by atomic blasts. The United States emerges as the sole remaining superpower, but even it is deeply scarred. Nuclear weapons, once a symbol of deterrence, have become a global curse. Scientific and moral progress stalls as nations attempt to contain or replicate the destructive technology they have inherited. Diplomacy operates under the constant threat of annihilation, creating a tense and fragile world order that threatens to collapse at any provocation. History in this timeline is not measured in victories or losses on battlefields, but in survival and avoidance of further catastrophe. The lessons of unchecked ambition, scientific hubris, and moral compromise are written in radioactive dust across the continents. The alternate timeline serves as a stark reminder of how easily the world could have been plunged into endless fear and devastation. History is a delicate balance of decisions, chance, and human ambition. A single breakthrough, one altered calculation, or one prioritization can shift the entire trajectory of civilization. If Nazi Germany had developed the atomic bomb first, the world would have endured not only years of warfare, but decades of fear, devastation, and moral compromise. The story is a warning and a reflection. It reminds us that scientific progress is neither inherently good nor evil. Its consequences depend on those who wield it. It forces us to question how close humanity came to living under constant nuclear threat and what it means to balance power with responsibility. If this exploration of history's darkest what-ifs captured your imagination, give this video a like, subscribe for more deep dives into alternate timelines, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that challenges everything you know about the past.